Curious.
Oh,
we got to get you over on Spider.
Here we go, Mike. Yeah, Mike, if you want to play a copy of this, you got it up. This is the one. This is the David Hudson.
Because, a dog goes and gets something, he goes out and digs a hole and buries it and lets it rot and ferment, and then he comes back, digs it up, and chews on and eats it. So Anubis represents the digestive system. Here is the king offers the jackal, Anubis, the digestive system.
There we go. There's more science.
Solve the problem. Well, in the book, I got through to page, back where we were. No, yeah, that's it. Okay. On page 534, the Soviet journal has a procedure there for the analysis of lead alloys containing the platinum group elements. And it was really interesting what they were doing. They were actually taking the sample, placing it on a carbon electrode, striking an arc from another carbon electrode, and then burning the sample. Now, in the United States, they do
this is just a couple minutes.
Burn the same way, except they only burn for 15 to 20 seconds. And everybody here says everything's red, let's go to read. Now, that's the standard thinking here in this country.
This is how they're hiding the fact that these monatomic elements exist. In Russia, they know how to do it, but in the United States, they don't teach it.
And it's only when you get to 50 to 70 seconds that palladium will begin to read. The lowest temperature, the lowest vaporizing platinum metal. And as you continue to burn, then ruthenium, rhodium, and platinum begin to read.
Pretty sure I've heard this guy speak.
And and this is the temperatures that they vaporize away. It's kind of like boiling water away from oil, and then they go off the sequence of the vapor.
So even though we'll just dive into this just a teeny bit, it's just important to know that in the United States, they say that all elements will burn off in spectroscopy after 20 seconds. And yet in the Soviet Academy of Sciences book, it explains that it actually takes up to 170 to 300 seconds. And so for these monatomic elements to burn off. And so they basically just hide it. They don't teach it to people, but yet it's in books. It's just not taught. And so that's all he's explaining.
It's probably because the deep state uses it for anti-gravity.
Well, later in the program, which we'll do on some other day, but you'll find out that the Department of Defense is part of this patent process, and they don't allow certain things. And so, but anyway.
But it goes all the way to 175 seconds when they're taking off, rhodium, platinum, iridium, and osmium. And so if you go back now to one before it. All right, so we had a fella in the Phoenix area. His name was Siegfried Bremer. Now, Siegfried Bremer could hardly understand his English. He had a very...
Anyway, hey, Bernie.
Yeah.
So what do you want to do? Because
I got it's large sized here for a sec. We can go.
Because I can't really see what's going on.
How does that look now? There we go. That's clearly visible for all. Finally figured it out. We're here. So example 1, manufacture of G-ohm. G-ohm is made from metallic gold as follows: 50% milligram, or 50 milligram, 99.99% pure gold in 200 milliliter aqua regia. For those not fully knowing the ancient alchemist texts, do you want to give a little definition of aqua regia, Mike?
Yeah, aqua regia is just basically nitric and hydrochloric acid. So,
and it's when it's those two acids together and gold, or just in general before they meet any metal element?
That's what dissolves gold the best, is aqua regia. So it's a combination of acids. But did you want to do more videos, or what do you
Yeah,
thinking?
sure, absolutely. We can play some more of the David Hudson in the meantime, because he is just so crucial and key to understanding this science, this technology, and the suppression of it, and like you were saying, how they've classified it as national defense and then attacked it and quote unquote debunked it by refusing to even acknowledge these metamaterials, these plasma state metal elements in this new form, as opposed to in the third dimensional solid state, and that mass spectrophy of when they burn off being a key aspect of that, as you were explaining a bit ago at the start there, and how the Russians actually acknowledge it, the Germans do a little bit, and then the Americans and the West just completely ignore it. And I'm glad you started out bringing this part up, because I remember when I was first getting into MonoAtomics alchemy a good 10, 15 years ago, one of the first things I watched was David Hudson's, these exact same videos, and that him talking about this. And then since I've made a bunch of these and everything, it's like I haven't sent them off to labs to get tested here officially, because chances are they'll just claim that they didn't get any results, or the bunkness, or whatever the heck it is, and not record or acknowledge the anomaly that's being caused by it, and thus it's not the original element metals, but instead just say that it's nothing at all, and thus they've proven that there's nothing to it, and ruining any chance of validity at all.
So here's a interesting part that you might like.
It's after months of this. Every day we try weighing some of it.
This is
now, you can imagine the frustration.
This is how they're using the bifilar winding
and
device.
I said, there's got to be a real world here someplace. He said, Dave, there is an instrument. There's an instrument available commercially that was developed for the aerospace industry. It's called thermogravimetric analysis. And this machine actually is made out of a glass tube, a Pyrex tube, but inside the tube it has a heating element, and actually it's a coil, a bifilar wound coil, so that the field, that heat actually cancel each other. And it has a little balance scale inside the heating area where you can put a sample in there under a controlled atmosphere. You could oxidize it, hydroreduce it, put inert gas on it, whatever you want, and it never hits the atmosphere. Never sees air, or never sees the outside atmosphere. And you can weigh it while you oxidize it, weigh it while you hydroreduce it, weigh it while you put the argon on it, and then weigh it as you cool it down. I said, at least we will learn what it really is when we hydroreduce it, right? How much it cost? Well, they're about $350,000. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, can we lease them? And he says, yeah, you can actually go to Perk and Elmer and they'll lease one to you by the month. I said, well, let's lease one. I'll bring it in. So we brought this thermogravimetric analysis machine in, and John actually hired a master's chemist from England. It was actually the baseline right here.
This is where they're weighing it, and it goes.
There's where we started. So it actually went way, 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 way up to there, and then collapsed back down. Now that's 150%, which is. I said, well, tell you what, let's just keep going. Well, you imagine we killed like half a day already. You know, let's go again. Let's heat it again. So let's go to the next slide. All right, this is the third heating. You start off heating, and everything is going along fairly stable, and then they start. And then look at this one right here.
We'll start explaining the invisibility part too.
It weighs less than nothing. It doesn't weigh nothing. It weighs less than nothing. And let me tell you something, people. This is a Pyrex glass. You can see right through it. It's clear like a window. But when there is less than nothing, we look at the pan. There's nothing in the pan.
Gone.
Well,
but it comes back when they turn it off, the machine.
Right? That's the craziest part, is that it vanishes while it's on.
It's actually a flux field that we're talking about here.
Yeah, it reappears after like 3 minutes, they said, on a different video.
And then when it collapses instantaneously, then it start building again.
Well,
and it collapsed instantly, and then start building again. But it actually is flux that is interacting with magnetic field. However, the magnetic field is not supposed to exist here, because this machine has bifilar wound heating elements, and there's no magnetic field produced by the machine per se. The only magnetic field we're talking about is the Earth's magnetic field. So I said something just didn't make any sense. This is, well, it really wasn't that after all, but I'll get to that in our presentation here. All right, let's go again. This is the forward heating. And you see, by the time it gets up to around 200 degrees, it's starting to do this. Now, 200 degrees, and look, it's weighing less than nothing. If the pan was in it, the pan is 0. And it weighs less than the pan weighs if it didn't have anything in it. Once again, and it's not there. You cannot see it in the pan. It's gone. And its weighable mass is gone. And the pan sitting in its mass is partly gone. Now that's spooky. All right, cool it down. Now, once again, we started, so it was way down here. So anyway, this is the cool down. Look at these peaks that are going on. But you see that every time we do it, we're moving this further and further toward ambient temperature.
1 more minute, and this part will be over.
We're actually coming closer and closer and closer to room temperature. Anyway, let's go. Do we have any more in this now? There should be a 5th one. Let's go to the next one. All right, here's the 5th heating. And then we have a 5th cool down. And this is the 5th cool down.
Bernie, is it loud enough?
Anyway,
it could be a little louder, but I can still hear it.
Was just mind-boggling. We must have ran this to 80 or 90 times. We actually ran it, and before we finished, we actually devised a little finger we could put it inside the machine, that when the material was gone, it would wipe through the pan and come back. It was like a windshield wiper, to ensure that maybe it was there and just vibrating at frequencies we couldn't see with our eyes. So we wiped through the pan and then brought it back and it was there. So it really left. It really was there, just not in these 3 dimensions. This is really important information, people, because the weight that we end up with here at the end versus the weight we started with is actually, you know, reduces to like 56, 57% of the original starting weight. Now, just for the record, we take this material that weighs 56% of the metal, and we devised a way to take it back to metal, and when we take it back to metal, it weighs the 100%. And this is really perplexing for a trained chemist, because he has to have a mass balance in all his chemistries. You know, and a mass balance, that's one of the things they teach you in the very beginning of chemistry. Keep a mass balance. Now, if you start with 100, you have to have 100 all the way through, and anything you add, you have to add to it. But you don't get less. And when it went from 100 to 55, 56%, this just really upset his apple cart. He said, Dave, this is not the physics that we've been taught in.
Right? That is not the physics that anybody is taught.
I'm just a dirt farmer.
Absolutely.
I'm a technical person. I'm trying to understand this. You know, I'm just watching it all. And, you know, I'm watching their responses. They're just blowing their minds, you know. At the time, I didn't understand the importance of this 56%. You know, I eventually learned what it meant when I filed my patents later, which, let's go to the next slide. All right. Now, there's a gentleman by the name of Hal Putoff.
You guys heard of Hal Putoff?
He did a paper, and this is
Puts
in
people on
March
because
1st,
he might be an
19.
agent,
What,
like
can you read that, Barry?
Reese, I believe.
1989. It's Physical Review A, volume. All right. It's entitled Gravity as a Zero-Point Fluctuation Force. Now, this man is a theoretical physicist by training. And I understand we have a couple theoretical physicists in the audience right now, believe it or not. Whether you're teaching art or teaching feng shui, it doesn't make any difference. Yet, down to the size of an atom and literally walk inside the atom and be in there with the electron buzzing around outside and the neutron, the proton right here beside you, you'll be in the world of the quanta. And in that world, there is no time as we understand it. It's only when we come up in the macro world, in our three-dimensional world out here, that time is invented by mankind to describe change. water runs downstream at miles per hour or feet per second. You get old in years. Everything happens in time. But way down there in the world of the quanta, there is no time.
Sadly, I've got to disagree with him.
And something I want to emphasize.
Yeah, not everything I agree with either.
Is billions and billions.
What are you thinking?
Take
there,
everything
Jim?
with a grain of salt, but it's like there's the vast majority is like crucial information. And then of course it's like when any groundbreaking new discoveries, new science, it's like the people coming up with it, you're coming up with ideas, you're going to put them all out there, and at that moment it's what you're suspecting, you then have to test it, and sure, not all of your what you think is going to happen, and there will be some parts that are wrong, but the vast majority usually turns out to be right.
These theories were back in the 80s, and so since then a lot has changed, and I would imagine, Jeremiah, you probably have some pretty good theories on this kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, well said by the both of you. I mean, the truth be told, we've all kind of stumbled across some pretty fantastic phenomena in our day, and things that challenge the mainstream physics to a very high degree. We've seen phenomena that can't be explained by any measure of the conventional physics. I mean, this is just a fact. We have to constantly fight against the status quo and redefine our own terms and how it is that we're trying to prospect out the